Let's talk about what it was like then when you transitioned from your corporate role to starting your own business. Did you know immediately that you wanted to help people be better leaders? And what did you do with the self-criticism, comparison, imposter syndrome? Because typically, wherever you go, there you are, right? So if you haven't completely cleared it, those things only get amplified, and especially in times of fear and uncertainty. And in many ways, the corporate world is predictable, right? So you know what the reward system is, you know what good looks like, you know what's expected of you, you know you're going to get a paycheck at the end of the month. Entrepreneurship is very unpredictable, and the fear can feel even, well, it's more scary because there is no predictability. You don't get a paycheck at the end of the month if you haven't closed a client. So how did you deal with that transition emotionally?
Because the universe kicked me out into entrepreneurship. um, it made some things easier, it made some things more challenging. um, when I was asked to leave my last corporate role, it was unceremonious for me. And I had guilt and shame and resentment, and anger, and a whole host of emotions that I knew were entirely natural for me to be feeling, in the moment of that experience. And I knew that if I didn't process them and put them in some productive place, then they would hold me back from being successful as an entrepreneur. So I knew that that was the first order of business. Uh, what I was going to do after I left was incredibly clear. I spent many years in my 20s trying out different personas and careers and different things. And I worked very hard to um, create the career and success and the skills and capabilities that I'm proud to say I'm really good at today. And so when I left, I knew exactly what I do. I will continue to do leadership development. I will continue to coach executives. This is what I love to do. This is, my purpose. I feel like this is what I was put on earth to do. The questions were, well, how do you do that and build a business? Where will the clients come from? How much money can you make? And there were all sorts of questions about the kind of operational side of it, but the work itself, my brand, the type of um, brand promise I wanted to offer, the type of transformations that was capable when people work with me, I was clear on that. So the work I had to figure out was, what's the operational side of doing this, and what is the emotional things that I need to process so that I can be my best self. And at the time, I read the book by William Bridges called Transitions. And he talks about these three stages of any life transition. It could be ending a marriage, or the death of a loved one, or changing careers. And he says there's the ending and there's the new beginning. And we're really good at those two things. The ending is something clearly ends. The new beginning is, quickly, what do I do next? I got to get to something else to occupy myself. And he introduces something in the middle he calls the neutral zone, which is essentially a forced time of unknowing, of questioning, of curiosity, of doing the uncomfortable, of sometimes not doing anything at all, just sitting with it and allowing yourself to process. And I committed to give myself 8 weeks to be in the neutral zone when I left. And at the time, I was working with a coach, and we came up with a silent private retreat for myself. And a few weeks leading up to the retreat, this was in the San Juan Islands on an island called Lopez, and it's absolutely beautiful. It looks like the Scottish Highlands when you're up there, and it's just up towards British Columbia, Canada. And I journaled every single day for 10 minutes with a timer leading up to this retreat. And when the timer went off, I'd stop writing and I wouldn't read it. But whatever I was writing was like, this is what I was really struggling with in that moment. And when I got to the property where I was having this experience, the sun went down. I watched the sunset over the ocean. I went back to my campsite and I built a big bonfire. And I had all of the pages of the journal entries that I had done from the previous 2 weeks. And I had a bunch of swag, t-shirts, and things like that from my previous company. And my goal was to be able to process whatever hurt I had, to forgive the people that I needed to forgive, including myself, and be able to let that part of my identity go so that I could move forward in creating this new identity. And I read through all those journal pages, and after each page was read, I threw it into the fire. But it wasn't with any sort of emotional friction or heat or anger. It was just letting it go. These stories I was telling myself.